Sunday night's season opener for Brian Kelly's LSU Tigers against USC in Las Vegas was indeed a disappointing loss and a rough start to the fall, but nobody was on edge more than Kelly himself. Things got heated for the head coach during his post-game meeting with the press, particularly after receiving a question from Baton Rouge's own Jacques Doucet, the sports director for WAFB. But despite Kelly's fist-pounding tirade, Jacques maintains his sense of humor. After a message from our sponsor, we'll hear from Doucet as he sits down with the Tiger Rag Radio crew to discuss this past weekend's game, Kelly's reaction, and share a little bit of his highly entertaining comedy routine. I'm your host, Jake McMains, and we'll be back right after this.
Hi, I'm Mike Munderland, and we're here to smash the capital city's trash.
Smash My Trash is a revolutionary compactor for large dumpsters, sometimes reducing the volume of waste by up to 70%. This means fewer hauls per month and big savings for your business. Fewer hauls and compacted waste will also result in a positive impact on our community and our environment by taking up less space in our local landfill sites. Schedule your company's free demo today. Call 225-497-0101.
Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches.
Put together a defense that puts us in a position to win the SEC.
The players.
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
The recruits.
Show some passion and some heart.
And those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the SEC.
All those things are going to be there, which are important.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU talk.
What a privilege. I mean, you get to represent LSU.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Helm Paint and Decorating. The paint experts of Louisiana. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Max Home. And the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Jackson Blackman and our hosts, Todd Horne and Jeff Palermo.
3 great players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio.
Hey, we're back for hour number 2. This is Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director, Louisiana Radio Network, along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne, and the editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Glenn Guilbeau. Jackson Blackman, our producer. Let's bring in our first guest of the night. He is the sports director of WAFB TV, and Jacques Doucet. And Jacques, what would have you obviously were there front and center for that Brian Kelly press conference, but if that was Paul Maneri up there, what would he have said in that press conference?
I tell you what, I never would have disrespected the media and thrown my hand into the table like a child like that. That's just not the way I do things, Jeff.
Speaking of how you do things, Paul, how are you going to recruit in South Carolina? You know, it's a state not known for talent like LSU, where you could just walk outside or have your assistant, Nolan Kane, walk outside and get the players. How are you going to get players up there in South Carolina, Paul?
Well, you know, Glenn, I don't know if you know this or not, but when LSU won the national title last year, 9 of the 10 starters were recruited by either me or Nolan Kane.
And you've said that about 9 times, Paul. Well, Paul has to leave us now. He's got to go recruiting. Thank you, Paul, for joining us. And now we're joined by Jacques Doucet. Oh, wait, Jacques has to go do an interview. John Brady has joined us instead. Coach Brady, what happened against UCLA in the Final Four? You had all those players. What happened?
Hey, here's a real John Brady for you. As by the way, this is all impromptu that's going on here, folks. So you remember in 2020, Mississippi State comes to Tiger Stadium, first game of the year, COVID season, and KJ Costello, was the hottest thing going for 15 minutes. He throws for, I think, 628 yards. And so a little bit later, I see John Brady about a month later, and he goes, man, I tell you what, that LSU team, they're terrible, huh? He goes, that Mississippi State quarterback, he ain't even on the team no more.
You should have said, yeah, John, it reminds me of your 0-1 team. Yeah.
Well,
I think John Brady has the opinion that a coach making $10 million a year should make the 12-team playoff.
There you go.
He probably
does. He makes sense. He makes good sense.
Well, so Jacques, are you having to be on the other side of the mic and the other side of the camera, getting fed all kind of questions since you instigated anger management at in Las Vegas?
I don't think my question was in direct proportion to the answer, so I didn't.
I agree totally. I mean, you asked a question about the three guys who really had good games: Savion, Anderson, and Emery. And he talked about that a little bit, but boy, then he flipped that switch, man. It was amazing.
The last time I saw an LSU coach pound the table, it was Matt McMahon after they lost to Nichols last year. That's the last time I've seen that. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't in the moment. I didn't think that was premeditated or an act. I know there's some people who do think that, but he's showed some fire. Certainly, it was a testy press conference, and today, after I guess a couple of days of digesting everything, it was a lot more tempered today at LSU. But that's the frustration of starting 0-1 for the third straight year.
Well, Jacques, what was your feeling on the game of how LSU played afterwards?
I thought Garrett Nussmeier threw the ball very, very well. I thought that the impromptu explosive play outside of late in the game, he scrambled and made that throw to Andre Anderson. Obviously that the Jaden Daniels stuff was missing. The hey, I'm going to take off and run for 30, 40 yards on a broken play. Those kind of things didn't happen. They didn't run Garrett at all. I thought Kyron Lacey had a great first half with those 7 catches and everything. But I just kind of wonder collectively how good this wide receiving core is. I mean, I think they're decent, but I just don't know outside of Lacey, who are your playmakers, explosive playmakers. Chris Hilton Jr., obviously that's a big disappointment. He's having a great camp. It looked like he was going to, be ready to go. And of course, he gets hurt again. So that was disappointing. And they just didn't score enough points. I think it was, kind of weird deja vu how they got the ball just like they did last year against Florida State. They go right down the field. They go for it on fourth down. They don't get any points there, on a goal situation. I thought the defense looked very competent. I mean, when you think about the fact that in LSU's 3 losses last year, they gave up 47 points per game. And this game is tied 20-20 late in the game. Harold Perkins made one play early where he got after the quarterback and got into the backfield. Savion Jones sacked the quarterback twice. He forced a fumble. He deflected a pass. He looked really good, and I think overall they showed a lot of good things on defense. They still gave up a lot of big plays in the passing game, but as Coach Kelly pointed out today, USC was only 3 of 9 on third down, and last year LSU I think gave up basically 45, 50% on third down. So there were a lot of good things. I just think he was more right in his post game, leaning towards I don't want to say blaming the offense, but the offense should have scored. Would they have 6 trips inside the 15 or something like that, and just didn't get enough points to, especially there. Real quick, there in the fourth quarter, the 3rd and 1 when LSU was up 17-13, John Emery gets stuffed on the 3rd down. If LSU converts that and can drive down the field and score another touchdown, they can put the game away. But that's not what happened.
It's time to start betting on yourself. Louisiana 988 can help if you're dealing with tough emotions caused by gambling habits. You can share as much or as little as you want, and it's completely confidential. It's free, available 24/7, and most people who reach out report feeling better right in the moment. Call or text 988 anytime.
Yeah, so Jacques, that's kind of a good segue, because my biggest gripe with this game was that running game was not nearly what I thought it was going to be. I thought they were going to be able to lean on them more, dominate them more. They had the size advantage, but I thought that ultimately that's where the game was lost, because the defensive line controlled LSU's running game more than I think LSU thought they could do.
Yeah, I agree, because that was a storyline that you read about, that USC's defensive line was smaller, they were weaker, they weren't very good last year. LSU, obviously, they got 2 tackles that are, in Emory Jones and Will Campbell, who were expected to go in the first round of the draft, and Miles Frazier and Garrett Dellinger are very good offensive linemen. Also, you would have thought that LSU perhaps could have, had their way up front and run the ball a little bit more. And I think it took I think Josh Williams had a 12-yard run in the first half, but I think LSU, they were at 13 carries for 43 yards in the first half, something like that. It took John Emery breaking that run. I think it was at 6:30 of the third quarter when he broke the 39-yarder. And John had some nice runs, but I don't know how much of that had to do with blocking. But, I think that was a big – because, watching it from the press box, which was about 100 feet from the moon, by the way, there wasn't a whole lot of holes that got opened up. Somebody joked that Al Davis hated the media, and they're continuing the tradition with the press box where it was. I'm not complaining. It was just a little funny. We were way up there. But you could really see from that far the fact that holes weren't opening in the LSU offensive line, they've been built up pretty good, and pass protection they did great, but as far as running the ball, that was a disappointment.
Hey, this is a little off tangent, but you just reminded me of it. Since I didn't get to go to the game, and you guys, Glenn and Jacques, were there, when the Raiders play there, they play on grass. Even though it's in the dome, they play on grass. What was the turf like? Could you tell?
Jacques, I didn't really look at it.
I'm just curious.
I heard somebody before the game say, "Yeah, they got the Raiders turf over there, and it's only used for the Raiders. It's off to the side, or it's under the ground, or something."
When there was an aerial shot of the stadium, you saw the field was. I think they do it the same way Houston does it, where you can, or Arizona, one of the two, where you actually roll it out of the stadium, like you could see it there. It was like it was outside the stadium. As crazy as
I got you. I thought it was normal turf like we see at, Ole Miss and other places. It was. I didn't really. I didn't do a good job of answering your question, but
Les Miles would have known, though, right?
Yeah, Les Miles would have known.
Well, Jacques, with the way the defense played, I think they played better than some people thought, and it kind of makes me change my opinion on the Ole Miss game. I think that game might be winnable. I think it looks good for the rest of the season if, they take care of the problems they had at USC, the unsportsmanlike, the false starts. They're not going to have the running quarterback, but Nussmeier looks pretty sharp. Looks like they could have a good running game, maybe if they stick with it more and start with it more. And the defense looks better. I see them maybe winning 10 games.
Yeah, I really don't know, to be honest with you. I think that, it's just, I don't know how many games, besides this weekend and maybe a couple of others where you say, oh, they're definitely going to win. South Carolina is a quirky place. Those guys are either really good or they're really bad, it seems like. LSU hasn't been over there in a long, long time. I know they'll be fired up to host them. But, yeah, I feel much better about, the defense, as Brian Kelly said in the preseason, the what-the-heck moments in terms of guys jumping up and down and pointing at each other, who's got the bust and just a non-aggressive play. They threw some punches, which is not what they did last year defensively. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the schedule plays out. I think that people are looking at the fact that they can get a winning streak going and then host Ole Miss in a big game in a full stadium in Tiger Stadium and Alabama down the road. The computers have LSU losing at Texas A&M for whatever reason. They've got that game, as at least difficult for LSU. And, I'm not ready to say that LSU is going to go to Arkansas and steamroll them, or even Florida in the swamp. Who knows? They might have a coaching change and get all fired up. It's just it'll be fascinating to watch. But I agree with you, Glenn. I could see them winning 10 games. The problem is they've lost one, and so. I was chatting with Matt Moscona before the year, and I think he's right. Everyone's got an inflated opinion of themselves, and I think there's 7 teams in the SEC whose fan bases think they're getting into a 12-team playoff. So we'll see what happens.
What do you think of USC?
I don't know how good they are. I think the quarterback's pretty good. I thought the skill players were pretty good. The guy that made the one-handed catch, that was insane in the first half. Defensively, I'm not sure still how good they are. They barely snuck into the top 25 to start the year, and now they've taken LSU's spot at 13. So I didn't walk away thinking that was a great team. I thought it was a great game, great atmosphere. Place was packed. It was a stadium record for attendance. The stadium was just built in 2020. I remember Drew Brees and the Saints going over there and having an awful game in an empty stadium during COVID in 2020. But I thought that, I thought they were competent. I don't think they're as good as the Florida State team LSU played last year in Orlando. But, it's early in the year, and I guess we just have to keep watching and see how good they are.
Jacques, thanks a lot for your time, man. We appreciate it. This should be an interesting next month here with LSU playing some games they certainly should win. So we'll see how dominant they can be leading up to that game against Ole Miss second weekend in October. Thanks a lot for your time tonight, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Just make a donation to Red Rock and Blue for the impressions. No charge. Just make a donation to charity.
Okay.
Thanks, Jacques. Thanks, Paul. And thanks, John.
Bye. Oh, bye. All
right. Oh, Jim Hawthorne's in the house. All right.
Oh, boy. There you go. Jacques Doucet, the multi-talented Jacques Doucet with the great impressions as well.
Join the East Baton Rouge Parish Library for inspiring events in August. Celebrate the power of storytelling with a presentation by the accomplished author of the Jaipur trilogy, Alka Joshi. Listen to fascinating stories based on DNA and genetic genealogy at our Decoding Stories Symposium. And learn about the history of Baton Rouge with photographs from the library's digital archive. Visit ebrpl.com for information on these programs and many more. Get inspired in August.
All right, that'll be it for today's show. I'd like to thank Jacques Doucet, Glenn, Todd, and Jeff for the interview. We'll be back later this week, but until then, stay tuned to TigerRag.com for all your latest LSU sports news.